Hey, Margie here. Are you ready to learn some fabulous tools and tricks that you can use for yourself and pass on to improve the health of your children and grandchildren? Well, if that's the case, you are in the right place because our special guest today is Dr. Elisa Song. And Dr. Song is a Stanford, NYU, UCSF trained integrative pediatrician, pediatric functional medicine expert, and she is on a mission to revolutionize the future of children's health. In her integrative pediatric practice, she's helped thousands of kids get to the root causes of their health concerns and empower parents to help their children thrive by integrating conventional pediatrics with functional medicine, homeopathy, acupuncture, herbal medicine, and essential oils. She is the best-selling author of a recently released book, Healthy Kids, Happy Kids, an integrative pediatrician's guide to whole child resilience. She's a sought-after speaker and has been in the media, including on Bloom TV and featured in Forbes and National Geographic, to just mention a few. And I've known Dr. Song for a long time, and she's very special, and I'm really excited to share all the information in this interview with all of you. So stay tuned. Welcome, Elisa. I am so excited about having you on here and sharing your brilliance because not only are you going to help everybody listening, but this is for the next generation. This is our children, our grandchildren. I mean, this is what really changes the world. And I think it's so exciting that everybody listening has the ability to make a huge impact on the world, really, and just our future. So not only the future of our bones, but the future of the next generations, really, of their lives. So this is powerful stuff. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so honored to be here. And I love talking to, we were kind of talking offline. I love talking to grandparents and grandmas and just, really sharing this message because it is true. It's for our next generations and our next generations and our next. And so it is powerful. We have in our tools the ability to really pave a different future for what's going on with our kids.
Well, it's very funny because the book is just so incredible. When I was reading it, I'm thinking it could also be a manual for just living healthy and having good bones for everybody. What we're going to teach our kids is what we live. And,
Yeah.
it's so we are good role models. So it's just so great. But I always like to share with the audience a little bit about the backstory because you don't practice just traditional pediatrics, even though you do. You take care of all sorts of, you're a physician and you deal with it with all sorts of issues. But you're an integrative pediatrician, and you just want to share a little background why, so people understand why you're so passionate and the work you do is a little different than what they may be accustomed to.
Yeah. Well, I actually started out my medical career as an integrative pediatrician. I kind of stumbled upon holistic medicine. It was called alternative medicine back in the late 80s, right? And so when I was in college as an undergrad, I stumbled upon this and I thought, oh my gosh, how interesting that we can think about medicine in a different way, because I grew up a very traditional, conventional medical household. My mom was an OBGYN and, I'm one of those kids, got antibiotics with every cold and, just like all the things. And so I had no idea that there was this thing called holistic medicine, or really that food had the power to be medicine. And our diet and our lifestyle and mindset and mind-body medicine, how those really are the foundations for lifelong health. And so when I went through my pediatric residency, it was with this eye of how do I, really get firmly grounded in conventional pediatrics. You have to be a good clinician. And I'm so grateful that I went through my training at UCSF. But yet some of the interventions and the medications that we're using, they can be life-saving and absolutely necessary. But we also have to see on the flip side, okay, well, now what are the unintended consequences of that? As we talk about, for the listeners' bone health, we know that a lot of these medications in the younger years can increase the risk later on for poor bone health and osteoporosis. So we don't want that. We want to take the benefits of conventional medicine but then use our integrative tools, our functional medicine, our our nutrition, our herbal and dietary supplements, and really take a comprehensive approach to then mitigating the unintended effects of any of the medications we're using, and also knowing that we're headed to a place where over, 1 in 2 kids is going to be diagnosed with a chronic health condition fairly soon. How do we understand what the foundations of childhood health, wellness, and resilience are? And that's exactly why I wrote the book, to get this message out to everybody.
It's so important because, for me dealing with bone health, so much of what I see in terms of inflammation did start in childhood. People had all sorts of inflammatory issues and all sorts of issues with their gut from a very
Yes.
young age.
Yes.
And, I always say if we really want to make a difference, we start as young as possible. It's never too early because all these things are going to impact absorption and impact, every single aspect of our bones. And it really, really matters. I mean, they've done studies showing that if we can prevent, if there's, because, it's a bank in terms of our
Yes.
bone. So if we can do things when we're younger to build bone, we're adding money to that bank. And so if we do lose someone we're older, we're okay. So that's
Yeah, absolutely.
in terms of looking at an overall picture, it's the next generations that are going to make the big difference and starting as young as possible. So I think it's so exciting. And the other thing is, though, this is something as a parent myself, and I don't know if everybody else thinks this way, but we've done our job. My children are in their 30s. And so we've done our job. And truly, you can't tell your grown children what to do. Is that even appropriate? You really can't. But you can lead by example, number one. And I don't have any grandchildren yet, but I have, lots of my friends do. And, I just know so many people that they've learned how to take care of themselves. They've learned these good health messages. But yet the grandchildren are coming over, so they're making junk, oh, let's buy the crappiest, worst food
Yeah.
possible because that's what they're used to, or let's go to McDonald's. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can lead by example and you can learn. And that's why I think your book is so amazing because you can make the most delicious food, the most delicious snacks, and you can, and they're healthy. So the kids are going to feel good. They're not going to have those sugar highs. So it's just such a win-win.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, and I love that, for a lot of listeners too, it's not just bone health you're concerned about. We know for many, many, especially women, where autoimmunity is much more common, or you have other chronic health concerns. And so much of that foundation, as you said, gets laid down when we're children and for infants. And I know, in your past amazing summit, that you and I spoke about the gut microbiome bone connection and how do we establish that healthy microbiome even from birth or before birth, when we're pregnant with our babies. And so now, as a grandparent, we have this beautiful, I'm not a grandparent just yet. I am really looking forward to the day when I am, but we have this amazing opportunity to really now, as you said, with the knowledge that we have on how to lay that foundation for health, impart that to our grandkids and have fun doing it. I mean, that's the thing. I want every family, every kid, parent, grandparent, teen, tween, young adult to have fun with this, to know that there is joy in making these healthful decisions.
Yes. Oh, I love that. We'll get into that part piece too, because you and I are so on the same wavelength. I mean, even the name of the book, that you have health. It's happy kids, healthy kids, I think, right? It's happy, healthy.
Yeah.
The two words that go together in my mind.
Yes.
But let's talk about, you just mentioned the microbiome. And you spend a tremendous amount of time on the book talking about the microbiome and how this can influence really children's, health and well-being. Do you want to share why this is and maybe give us some of your favorite tips and why we need to focus on this? As you said, even pregnant women need to focus on this.
That's right. Yeah. We need to, as the microbiome science is exploding and we're understanding that even for adults, the microbiome is really what holds the key for metabolic health, blood sugar regulation, hormone health, bone health, mental health. What we see also exploding in the research is the evidence showing that for children, infants, toddlers, older kids, teens, and tweens, their developing gut microbiome plays such an important foundational role in their developing immune systems, in their developing brains, in their developing, metabolic and hormonal systems, even laying the foundations for their epigenetic future. So how their genes are going to express themselves for better or for worse. So a healthy gut microbiome can make it so that even any number of diseases that might, quote, run in the family, that does not have to be a reality for your kids. And that starts with how your child's gut microbiome interacts with literally with your genetic material. It's fascinating. And we know that for children, infants who start off with a healthier gut microbiome, it reduces their risks of things like eczema, asthma, hay fever, anaphylactic food allergies that are on the rise now. A healthy gut microbiome in the younger years also lays a foundation for better mental health, reducing the risk of attention and focus concerns, behavioral concerns, anxiety and depression that is now rampant among our teenagers and young adults. So, and really, one of the foundations, when we understand that 80% of your child's immune system is in their gut microbiome, and the vast majority of many of these, quote, brain chemicals like serotonin, which helps us feel calm and relaxed and helps us sleep and manage stress. Well, 80 to 90% of serotonin in our body is made by our gut microbes if we have a healthy balance of gut microbes. Same thing with attention and focus. If your kids are struggling with, or your grandkids, you see them, they're coming to visit and you're like, wow, they're just wiggling and constantly moving and can't sit still, can't focus on anything in particular. And you're concerned that this is really outside the norm for their age. Well, at least 50% of our dopamine, which is our reward, motivation, stay focused, pay attention neurotransmitter, is made by our gut microbiome. So anything we can do to optimize your child's gut microbiome, your grandchild's gut microbiome, that no matter how old they are, will continue to pave the way forward for optimal health.
And our microbiome as well.
Yes,
As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, if only I had known this, because I'm a physical therapist. I went back to school for nutrition later on after my kids were younger. But in those days, when my kids were younger, we had, and I didn't know at the time, we had an issue with the house and a little bit of mold and different things. So they all were constantly getting ear infections. So two of my kids lived on for years low dose antibiotics, low dose every single day. And then my daughter had all sorts of antibiotics and she played tennis, so she lived on Advil. So of course her microbiome, and she was always getting sick, like ridiculously sick. Yeah, just everything we can. I remember going to the pediatrician. They're like, this just sometimes happens with some kids. Now I know, because years later we've worked on the microbiome and different things. But it's very interesting how this really wasn't at all something that people even looked at. Just give them the antibiotics, give them the antibiotics. So such a wonderful piece of it. So why don't you share so everybody listening is like, all right, this is so good. What are your top tips then? Like, what can we do, or what advice do you give? Where do you start when you're trying to, help someone or to just, model behavior? What have you found works? Because it's different.
I love this. Yeah. And like I said, if it's not fun, we're not going to stick with it. So it has to be fun. It has to be joyful and easy to implement. And so in the book, after laying the foundations of really understanding why it's so important to focus on the microbiome for your children's health, the second part of the book is, how do we create microbiome magic? How do we think about creating this every single day? And I talk about the 5 things that you're already doing every single day. But if we learn how to do them like a gut hero, we can create all sorts of microbiome magic. And so one of the things that I talk about is it's a wheel of whole gut resilience. Doesn't matter where you start. A wheel has no beginning or end. You can start anywhere and you still keep moving the wheel forward. So the 5 things: how we eat and nourish our gut microbiome. And this is really divided into two parts. So the wheel of whole gut resilience has these 5 things, and it doesn't matter where you start. You pick the easiest one, and the wheel keeps moving forward. So what are the 5 things that we do every single day? We have to eat every day. We have to breathe every day. We move our bodies. We sleep and we hydrate. We have to do all of those things anyway. So in the book, I teach you how to do those things like a gut hero. And when we're thinking about nourishing our gut microbiome with what we're eating, I divide it into 2 parts because it's just as important to think about what we're eating to nourish our microbiome as it is to think about what we're trying to keep out. And for children, even our grown children who are maybe off to college or working and buying their food independently, cooking, they have to learn if they're buying anything out of a package, even if it says healthy, whole grain, gluten-free, all the things that we might be looking for, we still have to learn how to be very savvy about reading the label and purposefully choosing foods that don't have what I call microbiome mischief makers in them. And so the things we want to focus on getting in to nourish our microbiome needs plants. They need plant-based foods to grow and thrive. So I call them the 3 Fs, the fiber, which think not just fruits and vegetables, but legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. We want to think all of those, right? Fermented foods, which are an amazing way to optimize your gut microbiome diversity, and phytonutrients. And I know phytonutrients is a pH, but it sounds like an F, which is why I categorize it in the 3 Fs. But again, it doesn't do any good to say, well, just eat more vegetables. You got to make it fun. So I have some tips in there. And one of the things that I talk to kids and teenagers about and parents is, okay, let's think about how do we make every single meal pop, P-O-P. How do we make every single meal pop with plants on purpose? So you're making your meal or your snack, and let's just think, what's one more plant I can add to this? If it's, if you're having a bowl of oatmeal, well, could I just go into the pantry and get a handful of pumpkin seeds and sprinkle it on? That's one more plant, right? Even the color count. So if your kids love broccoli, all right, well, how about, and let's say they're super picky and that's the only vegetable they eat. All right, what about going to the farmer's market, getting some beautiful purple broccoli? That color difference still makes a difference. That's another plant point. So make it pop with purple broccoli. And I've had kids come and, parents call and tell me, oh my gosh, my toddler, and this you could do with your grandkids. Right? How do we make it pop, get them involved? And I had one mom tell me her little toddler who's 3.5, after hearing me talk on something, went up to her at dinner time and said, are we going to make it pop? So, we make it fun, we make it memorable, we make it doable, and we make it something that we're already doing. We're already preparing the food. So just thinking about one more thing you can add on is not, can be a simple way to think about it. So that's one part of it. And then, of course, the other 4 are all of these things are, Margie, what you talk about with your audience, but how we're living, how we're sleeping, how we're moving our bodies, how we're breathing and engaging our vagus nerve and mindfulness. Each of these things actually nourishes our gut microbiome. So we may be thinking we're doing it because, it's good for our bone health or for our immune health or whatever it is, but knowing how your microbiome is the foundation for all of that, they all support your microbiome. And so it's another way of thinking about it, but it's a way that can make kids and even adults be a little more motivated because they know, actually, if I move my body, it's going to help my microbiome independent of diet. Same thing if we engage our vagus nerve, do some, diaphragmatic belly breathing, walk in nature, laugh and hug. All the things that help our vagus nerve kick into gear, that helps your microbiome independent of diet. So then I say that, I emphasize that because for some kids, we just have pickier kids and it's kind of stressful thinking about how am I going to get them to eat more plants in their diet? Okay, remember it's a wheel. Start with the movement. Or start with sleep, or start with, how you're engaging your mindfulness every day. That all makes a difference.
Wow, it's interesting. When I'm reading your book, I'm thinking, oh, she has my happiness course in here, which I think is so paramount seeing how, to me, that's the foundation of everything. But you have on page 169 in your book, Share the Love. I'm reading,
Yes.
and that just resonated with me. You want to, because that's, I think it's such a beautiful practice and so powerful. And sometimes we forget about that. We don't even realize that, it feels good, but that it's
Yeah.
also something that really is life changing. You want to share a little bit about that? Because when I'm reading it, that I stopped in my tracks and I was like, how beautiful a practice, and something that oftentimes we don't implement, even though we just don't think about it.
Yeah, yeah. I have an entire chapter on mindfulness exercises and why it's so important to engage your child's vagus nerve. Um, and I mean, it is such an important issue. It is such an important foundation that it really deserved its own chapter, maybe even two, right? But so many of these things that we can do to support our vagus nerve are things we can do for free. They don't cost any money. They take up a little bit of time, but it's time that you get back in spades with the health benefits and the emotional and psychological benefits. And so, share the love is one of the exercises, and it's really it's a gratitude exercise. And so we know the power of gratitude to improve not just our psychological well-being, but literally our immune health, right? Literally, decreasing inflammation and keeping us stronger. And so we are literally healthier and happier as we practice our gratitude. And, through the pandemic where, we were so isolated, from so many of our loved ones for too long. And we know the power of connection and the importance of connection through our lives, our entire lifespan, to optimize our health. This was one of the exercises that I did with my kids, and that I would talk about, when I would, have calls with patients and parents. And there's a loving kindness meditation that's just 4 simple sentences. Simple sentences. May you feel healthy. May you feel happy. May you feel safe. May you live with ease. 4 simple sentences. And so what you can think about doing, whether it's at bedtime or maybe at a mealtime, you just sit and really take this moment to express gratitude. We always start with gratitude for ourselves, because sometimes the harshest words that we hear are the words we tell ourselves, right? So we just always want to send loving kindness to ourselves and just tell yourself, may I feel healthy, may I feel happy, may I feel safe, may I live with ease. And then just close your eyes or keep them open if you'd like, and just think about your friends, your family, your neighbors, your community. In those days, we were thinking about anyone in the world, our frontline workers, whomever we want to extend our gratitude to, and extending to them, may you feel healthy, may you feel happy, may you feel safe, may you live with ease. And it can take 2 minutes. It can take 10 minutes if you really want to go one by one with everyone you want to extend gratitude to. But you can't help but do that and feel a sense of calm and feel more connected to those people, even if they're not right with you. And what's fascinating is in the research that exercise has been shown to not just increase your feelings of joy and connectedness, but also we can see that it improves something called heart rate variability, which is a marker for your vagus nerve functioning. And we know when we help our vagus nerve work well, sets the stage for recovering from illness faster, from reducing inflammation, balancing our blood sugar and our hormones. So many health benefits.
Yeah, I love that practice, and it's something that I do, and I teach other people as well, because it really elevates your happiness, and there's been research on this, that it just,
Yes.
it helps your health too. And yeah, there's just nothing better than when you start wishing others well. And, just try it, everybody. We don't have to tell.
Yeah.
See what happens. But yeah, I was loving that. I thought, what a wonderful thing to install in your children or grandchildren, or just to pass on a practice that is so powerful in so many ways. So now I wanted to talk about the food for a minute, because there's a couple of recipes that I haven't tried them yet. The Thai coconut vegetables, yum, that sounds so good. Cauliflower hummus, then the lentil lasagna, that sounded incredible. These are all
Yeah.
sounding good. But for kids, for anybody, the fermented fruit pops. The fermented
Yes.
Yeah, how do you make those? You wanna share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mentioned the three Fs. These are our microbiome champions, the fiber, fermented foods, and phytonutrients. Well, we can think about getting more fiber in and color in our diet, but a lot of parents and grandparents will tell me, I don't know if we're going to get my kid to eat fermented foods because we're thinking sauerkraut or kimchi or, those really tangy, which some kids love. And we want to keep trying, right? Because it can take 40 or 50 times of trying something to actually find it acceptable. But we want to think beyond the sauerkraut and really think, what are other ways to get fermented foods into my kid? And one of the easiest ways, and I actually did this, I created this Healthy Belly Happy You course, a 6-week curriculum for my daughter's 3rd and 4th grade combined class. So there are these 8 to 10-year-olds who, were just wide-eyed when they learned, what all of their trillions of tiny friends in their tummies were doing for them, which made them want to take care of them even more. And so we made fermented blackberry lemonade, which is in the book. It's a recipe. And with that fermented blackberry lemonade, you can make it strawberry. You can do, really think creatively. This is just to get your creative juices flowing. You could make it with any particular kind of, fresh squeezed juice if you'd like to. And when you ferment it with probiotics, there's different ways to do that. But when you ferment it, it creates all sorts of amazing microbiome magic because we think of fermented foods as beneficial because of the probiotic content. But in reality, that's probably just a very small part of the benefits. The real benefit is in all of the byproducts, the fermentation byproducts. So when probiotics in fermented food start eating up all of the food that's around them, whether it's the cabbage or the blackberries or the lemon juice, they create vitamins like vitamin B12. They create short chain fatty acids like butyrate that are now considered our master regulator of health. They create neurotransmitters like GABA and serotonin. And when we have that sauerkraut or drink this fermented lemonade, we're getting all of that amazing goodness in there. So how do you do it? Well, there's a couple of different ways. When I was learning how to do it, I actually made my own whey, which you have to get unstrained yogurt. It's the funnest thing. You put it in a cheesecloth and you hang it up on, if you have a cabinet with a handle that you can just hang up the cheesecloth with a bowl underneath, and you let the whey drip, drip, drip like overnight until you have this, this strained yogurt and now this whey, which has the active cultures in it. So you can use that to put in, a couple of teaspoons or tablespoons into your lemonade, muddled blackberry mixture. The other thing you can do that is way simpler, and I show you in the book, you can use a probiotic capsule. So get a probiotic capsule. Many of us take probiotics anyway, so get a probiotic capsule, open that up, and then you mix it in with your whatever fermented, the fruit concoction that you want to, and it will ferment over the next several days. And there you have your fermented lemonade that you can make into sorbets, you can make into popsicles, you can mix into smoothies, you can make into Jell-O. All sorts of things you can do.
Wow, well, I think people listening are going to do it themselves because it sounds really good.
Yes.
I
For
love
everyone.
sauerkraut and kimchi, but a lot of people don't. So this is how fun to make something that grandchildren and other people will love, and you're doing, as you say, you're having the magic in terms of the microbiome. That's fantastic. Hey, Margie here. Posture is so important for our bones, overall health, and happiness. And unfortunately, it's something that's often overlooked. As a physical therapist for over 40 years, I've seen that when people do certain daily posture exercises, it's a game changer. So I created 7 short videos that demonstrate the exercises I have found most effective. And you can access these free videos by going to tinyurl, so tinyurl.com/mybetterposture, or just click the link in the show notes. And then you can start incorporating these easy exercises into your life, and before you know it, you'll start seeing improvements in your posture. So now let's get back to the show. So let's talk about water, because I think in the book you give some really good tips, because hydration is so key. And we really are a society of people, unfortunately, very dehydrated. Like people don't
Yes.
put and I don't know, when you go to the doctor, they don't check unless your blood work shows up as an issue. Are you
Yeah.
drinking enough? Yet it's something easy to do and so very important. But you give some really good tips. You want to share your favorite ways to help everybody, not
Yeah. Yeah.
just kids, but
Well, because we are, as you said, a chronically dehydrated society, and one study showed that 50% of kids don't drink enough water. I don't know how they quantified that. I would bet more kids, right? Because how many kids, you fill their water bottle up to bring to school, and it comes back completely full, right? And so and we can see in some studies that water drinkers, better water drinkers actually tend to consume more fruits and vegetables, and better water drinkers have more optimal gut microbiomes. So, and they're pooping better. I mean, that's another thing, right? Because you eliminate better. And when we eliminate better, it actually does help a healthier microbiome to, become populated in our gut. And it helps us take out the garbage, right? I mean, that's what our poop is. It's the garbage that our body is trying to get rid of. And if we're not hydrated enough, guess what happens to all that garbage just sitting in your colon? Some of it gets reabsorbed, right? Which we don't want. We just want to flush everything out. So when I have kids in the office, of course I weigh them. And so then I have them do a little math with me. And so, if they're old enough. And so we take their weight in pounds and divide it in half. And then that is the minimum number of ounces of fluid that they should be having on a normal day. Meaning if it's a super hot, sweltering day, or if they've been really active and sweating a lot because of their sports or whatever it is, they need to drink more than that. So that's just the baseline. So a 50-pound child, right, then we would want them to have about 25 ounces of fluid in a day. And then I make it really concrete, because if you don't make it concrete, if you don't schedule it, if you don't plan it, it probably won't happen. So then a lot of them come after school and they have their little water bottle with me, and I'll let them know, okay, let's take out your water bottle. Let's look on the bottom, how many ounces is that? A lot of kids' water bottles are 12 ounces. So I let them know, look, let's think about now, how many of those do you need to drink in a day? About 2 of those. So we'll do a little experiment. Let's drink from that, like fill it up in the morning, and then make sure you fill it up, you drink it and fill it up again at some point in the day, maybe by the time school is over. That's our goal. And then you drink it, by the rest of it by the time dinner happens. And then they know, oh, okay, that's 2 of those. It's not a nebulous, well, how many glasses is that? So, or some kids may have, 18-ounce water bottles, whatever it is. I always like to have the visual for we all learn in different ways. So some kids can just, have that number in their mind. But a lot of kids, if you say it's 2 of your water bottles, or, it's 8, it's, 4 of the glasses that you have at home that are, 6-ounce glasses, right? So, and what do we drink? Not the hydration drinks that are on the market that are full of, artificial sweeteners like sucralose or acesulfame potassium, or the artificial dyes. Those are going to wreak havoc on your child's microbiome and your brain. Even for us as adults, we know that in adults, these ultra-processed foods, they are linked with worse health and even cognitive decline, which, we don't want to head into that. I mean, that is something that for many of us, we've seen, our parents go through. And so, we want to do everything we can to try to prevent that, but also that sets the stage for your children, being as healthy as possible and their brain health remaining intact. So we want to drink water, good old water, right? There are some electrolyte drinks on the market that I think are okay for kids, and one of them is actually, it's called Cure. It's a coconut water based one, which I love, right? You can drink, unsweetened coconut water. Bone broth is an amazing, hydrating drink. Love drinking bone broth. I mean, in the wintertime, I just drink bone broth like tea. I'll just, heat it up, and then I just put a little salt, a little black pepper, and just sip it. It's delicious. So we want to think about drinks that are really hydrating, but not necessarily the ones that a lot of kids gravitate towards, that are the bright neon colors or, the artificial sweeteners.
Yeah, it was interesting. My son played ice hockey, And the parents, we had to bring Gatorade. You know,
Yeah.
that was the drink of choice. That's what they need. They need
Yeah.
not to
I mean,
realize.
it is interesting because some studies have shown, and I think, the hydration market is exploding, even for adults. There's so many that are adults. I have adults come in and they're drinking one that is so high in sodium and having multiple a day. And I tell them, that really, unless you're a triathlete, really high performance endurance athlete, you don't need that amount of sodium to replace on a normal workout, right? And what's interesting is, there have been studies that have shown that water actually is just as hydrating as these hydration drinks, these electrolyte drinks. So again, I mean, water is amazing, but if you would like to add some flavor, I mean, the best way to do that is just, get a glass, container, fill it up with filtered water and just throw in some lemon slices or throw in some berries and, leave it overnight. It gets infused. It's delicious. I mean, that to me is really one of the best things that we could be drinking throughout the day.
I so agree. And when kids start that, they enjoy it. You know, when they're
Yes.
not used to it's all what you're accustomed to. If you're used to the sugary things, that's what you're gonna. I mean, there's just so many negative aspects about that in so many ways. I mean, for our bones, for everything. But but yeah, I love that. I do that as well. With just put a ton of fruit, just leave it,
Yeah.
and it's great. And you even mentioned in the book herbal teas. Are there certain ones you find kids like the most?
That just depends on the kiddo, but I love herbal teas because they also have therapeutic benefits. There's some herbal teas that are anti-inflammatory, like chamomile, can be anti-inflammatory, and also, of course, help with digestive symptoms. Peppermint tea I love, and some kids do love that minty flavor. That's really great for focus, being alert and like in class. Also for gas and nausea in the belly. Also for reducing fevers. If you're really hot, then drinking some peppermint tea can be a little cooling on the inside. Um, Lemon balm is really calming and really yummy, to also give. You could make tea. One of our favorites is it's a chamomile lavender ginger tea, and so we can't find it anymore. So you can just make your own. I mean, you could actually, if you have lavender in your backyard, you could just, dry some of the lavender, use the lavender. Chamomile is really easy to find, but it also grows like crazy if you grow chamomile in your yard. And then you just chop up a couple of tiny pieces of ginger and you just brew it all together. So you can make your own combination of flavors if you like to.
Yeah, no, but in the book you have really great recipes and great suggestions. So,
Yeah.
so good. One thing I have to ask you, since I'm into bones, and it's really an issue. And I know you answered this question on the summit, but a lot of people, they know how important calcium is for all of us. And what are the best ways that you've found for children to get some of their calcium?
Yeah. I am not a huge fan of drinking lots of milk. Especially, we know that pasteurized milk is it's stripped of so many of the nutritional values that you would get in, like milk straight from the cow, let's say, right? Because it really, in the pasteurization process, the whey protein is very delicate, and so are some of the antibodies and the immune, benefits, and even some of the vitamins that are naturally found in milk. And so you're left with a more inflammatory casein protein. And if you'll notice if you buy milk, you'll see that it's enriched with vitamin D or A because they had to put it back in, right? So now cultured dairy, if you can tolerate dairy. Now, a lot of my kids have chronic health concerns. Even cultured dairy is just too inflammatory for them, and we're working on healing their gut. And so we take a break from dairy and see if they can later tolerate it. But cultured dairy, like yogurt, kefir, cheeses, I mean, those tend to be a little bit better tolerated, and they have more benefits than straight milk. Now, we also have to remember there are lots of other food sources of calcium too. So, I mean, one of my favorite things is I love canned salmon. So you can often get canned salmon, wild caught canned salmon with the bone in, and the bones are so soft that you just crush the bones, right? My father-in-law used to do this, which is when I was like, wow, that's genius, right? Just crush the bones in, make your salmon salad, have it with, delicious whole grain bread or a lettuce wrap, however you like to eat it. That's a great way to get in calcium and the omega-3s from the fatty fish that most children and adults are deficient in. But you can, get your broccoli and your legumes in. I mean, just get in all of those rich food sources. And not only are they going to be absorbed more easily, they're going to nurture your microbiome because they're plants and they're fiber. So lots of other ways. We really want to think beyond milk. That that whole kind of got milk messaging when I was a kid, when we were growing up with all the famous athletes and the actresses and the stars with the milk mustache. I mean, we have to just move beyond that. We know better now.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. The other thing I think that's important in the book that I think is so great to really share with people is that there are other ways when you take an integrative approach, because in the end of the book, I mean, a lot of the chapters actually, I mean, this is helpful for everybody. And you've helped me actually. I know you've always posted what to take if you're getting a cold or when there were viruses, you were on the forefront. Okay, this is the prevention. This is what you do. And it wasn't just good for the children. It was good for everyone. There's a lot of things that you've taught me to use, when we were dealing early on, when everybody didn't know what to do to protect themselves with COVID, you were right there with all sorts of things. But in the book, you go through a myriad of so many different, which really aren't known. It's not as though when you go to the pediatrician, they're going to give you all these different herbs and these different things you can do. So I love the fact that you mix all that. And I'm assuming that's what you do in your practice.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the part 4 of the book is really it's my integrative approach to the top 25 most common acute conditions in children, ranging the gamut from fever to colds and flus to constipation, headaches, anxiety, sleep problems. And it's exactly if a parent, a patient of mine were to call me and say, Johnny just woke up with a fever, this is exactly what I would tell you to do. This is exactly what I've used in my practice. And it's based on my 20, years of doing this clinically as a pediatrician. So I integrate. It's as an integrated pediatrician, I share with you my suggested first line, herbal supplements, diet and lifestyle factors, homeopathic remedies, essential oils, acupressure points, and exactly how to use them. But what I also share is when is it time to call the doctor? When is it time to consider going to the ER? When is the time that antibiotics might be appropriate? And knowing that antibiotics can really disrupt the gut microbiome, I also give you a plan to a post-antibiotic microbiome recovery plan. So I just wanted all the bases covered because a lot of parents and grandparents, they don't have this, a pediatrician who can guide them through this. So I just wanted to make sure that parents, grandparents had exactly what I inform my patients about.
Well, we'd love you to be everywhere. I mean, really, it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate that it's not a field. I mean, I don't know. Are there a lot of integrative pediatricians? I haven't come across them, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, there are not a lot. However, there are more, and I have the honor of being able to do a lot of teaching for practitioners too. And there is interest. It's just that if our kids or our grandkids are young right now, we can't wait. We can't wait for this army of newer pediatricians to be trained. I'm fingers crossed that it's coming because this is truly the way that we're going to change children's health. And we really need to set a new paradigm for children's health care in motion. So it's coming. But for now, we have that's why I wrote the book. I actually, even for practitioners, I've had so many practitioners say, oh my gosh, this book is amazing. I'm going to use it as a resource for my patients too, which I'm so grateful about.
And as I said, when I'm reading it, it's amazing. I mean, the acupressure point, all the things you can use on your health too. This is not just for kids.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
It's the same principles, and it's what creates healthy adults and just health in general. So how wonderful that you can use these and then model those for others in your family, which is so great. But it's really a way of bringing an integrative pediatrician into your life. And I'm a big believer if knowledge is power. And I just think the more knowledgeable you can be, your children can be, people can be themselves, then they can get the advice from whomever, their own pediatrician, or okay, I can try this, for something. Let's see, let's try this tea, or let's try these pressure points, or let's try this essential
Yeah.
oil. It's just I think it's so wonderful, and I know how hard it is to write a book, and I know how long this took you, but it's just, I'm so grateful that you did this because I always love when people make a big difference in the world, and I truly believe this book. It's already gone crazy. It hasn't been out that long. So yeah, it must be so exciting. Right? Do you feel that?
It is. It took a long time to write, but it is truly the resource that I want parents and practitioners and grandparents to have. I mean, for years to come. There's nothing in this that's gonna, be a fad that goes away anytime soon. So I wrote it with that in mind, that I want this to be the resource for decades to come. And so I'm just so grateful that I have the support to be able to do this and to bring this out, because it's so needed. And what's so amazing is to see how many parents and practitioners are already so on board, that they want this information, that this is a movement that we're all creating together, right? No, there's not a movement is all of us. And so I'm just so grateful that I get to be a part of that.
Oh, well, it's interesting because I know most of the listeners to my podcast are interested in integrating, as well, and integrative health, and taking the best of everything and putting it together. So when we act like that, we really want to share that with those that we love.
Yes.
So for
Yes.
everybody to get the book, then what's the best way?
So the book is available anywhere books are sold. And I mean, I read some statistic that 70% of all books are bought on Amazon, which I totally get. I mean, I do a lot of Amazon shopping, but it is available at indie bookstores too. You may need to ask them to order it for you. But I've had parents, reaching out saying, "Oh my gosh, I found it in my little town and my little bookstore." So I love supporting indie bookstores, but it is available, Amazon, Walmart, Target, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, anywhere books are sold. So, and if you want to learn more about the book and just also see all the places where you can go to buy it, you can go to healthykidshappykids.com/book, and you'll have all the information there.
And I know that if people are listening in real time when this is coming out, you're going to have some bonuses as well. So would that be on that page as
That
well?
would be on that page, yeah. So if you are listening before the first weekend of June, these bonuses are there for you to really get started, to enhance your experience with the book, and just really just make it even more fun and concrete and doable for you. So yes, healthykidshappykids.com/book.
And also for people listening, now everybody wants their children to see you. Where exactly do you practice, and how do people work with you? What are the possibilities?
Yeah. So, unfortunately, as a solo practitioner, busy practice, mom, wanting to spend time with my kids, and my husband, I haven't been able to see new patients in quite a while, which is another reason why I felt like I had to write this book so that people could have this information. Whether your kids or grandkids are well and you just want to be proactive and optimize their health, or if they have something going on and you just want to know how do we get to one of the root causes, which is microbiome disruption. So it's there. Now, the best way to really, I think, learn from me is on my website, healthykidshappykids.com. Also on Instagram is where I share the most information, and that's healthykids_happykids. And I have some really fun programs in the works for kids and for parents. Just like you said, knowledge is power, and it is about empowering ourselves as parents and grandparents, but also empowering the kids.
Oh, I love that. We could go on, and I just think this book is incredible. As I said, I can't
Thank you.
with the recipes, and I can't wait to hear from the listeners what they've used and how it works, because
Yes.
why not model this to our future generations? So is there any last minute things you want to share, or anything we left out that you really want to impart to everybody?
I just want to share for grandparents and parents listening. A lot of times, when I start talking about the microbiome, and parents and grandparents have this aha moment of, oh my gosh, I wish I had known. Like, I wish I had known this when my kids were younger, or I wish I had known this when my grandkids were younger. We could have had a different path. And what I tell everyone listening, you can't go back and change things in time. You only knew what you knew at that moment. But I wrote this book because I know from firsthand experience with my patients that it is never too late to restore your microbiome. It is never too late to move forward and optimize your health. And so, we just want to congratulate ourselves for knowing what we know now and moving forward with it, right?
And I couldn't agree more. It's never too early and it's never too late. And
Yes.
we are where we are, and we do have to say, yeah, I'm listening to this podcast, I'm learning, and I can take this information and move from today onward. So I think that's so wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to see what's going to happen with this book in the world, because I just know it's going to have a big impact. And thank you for taking all that time, because I know how busy you are. And thanks for joining me today and sharing this, and just wishing we're both in pink. We've done this.
That's right. Yeah, we are joyful, even in our colors.
We've done this before, where we've worn the same color combination in other talks. I guess we're on the same wavelength. But thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Margie, for having me.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Dr. Song as much as I did. And now you have some new tips and tools that could help you, your children, your grandchildren. As I said in the interview, there's only so much we can do when our children are grown, but you can give them a book. You can give them a book that has so many resources to really change their health as well as the health of their family. So big fan of this book. So make sure all the links will be in the show notes, as well as the link to my posture exercises, because that's something we can all do, both for ourselves and our children. The concepts of good posture are something that's also life-changing. So to make sure to check that out as well. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.